Welcome to Sriram's IAS. So today what we are going to see, we are going to discuss about eco-sensitive zones. Before going topic, I like to introduce that Sriram's is now on Unacademy platform, and if you want to join our preparation, you can avail the code that Sriram's, okay, to get flat 25% off, where you will get the benefit of the foundation classes as well as the crash course, and you can also offer optionals. Okay, there are a lot number of options which you can choose from. So this way you will be along with us in your preparation. And then now we will start our topic. See, today what we are going to see, eco-sensitive zone. What are the news related to eco-sensitive zone and what is meant by eco-sensitive zone? Because last 1 year, eco-sensitive zone is in news. Okay, it's making newses. For what? I hope many of you would have known about this, that recently Supreme Court has modified its 2022 order. So previously it has given around June 2022 and was passed by Supreme Court. That was re-modified now. Okay, so we have to know what is that order and what is a modified order. In around June 2022, Supreme Court said that there should be mandatory, 1 kilometer eco-sensitive zone. We can represent eco-sensitive zone hereafter as ESZ. Okay, so we'll write in the short form ESZ, 1 kilometer around the protected areas. The protected areas means, they mean that it should be around the national parks as well as the wildlife sanctuary. This is the judgment. This is the order plus wildlife sanctuaries. I'm writing in the short form like this. So this was a previous order which was passed by Supreme Court. This raised a lot of issues and a lot of protest was there in various states. And then central government approached the Supreme Court that this order has to be reconsidered because a lot of people who are residing around the ESZ has been facing a lot of inconveniences. They are not able to construct their houses, not able to do the farming activities. This way, a lot of issues has been raised to the Supreme Court. So then, very recently, Supreme Court modified its order, the previously passed order, and it said that as we are having here itself, you can see that the eco-sensitive zones cannot be uniform areas, okay, across the country. So it is related to the protected area specific. What type of protected area it is. So based on that, whether the peoples are located there, that way we have to consider everything, and it should be protected area specific only. The eco-sensitive zone should be protected area specific. This is the main order which was modified recently by the Supreme Court. Okay, so now based on that only we are going to see the detailed analysis of this news. So what was there? What are those important points highlighted by the Supreme Court in that order? As you can see, it modified, like we have said previously in the June 2022 order, there should be a minimum 1 kilometer mandatory eco-sensitive zone should be there. Okay, so that way they have announced, but mainly in order to stall those building roads or other infrastructure, in order to improve the development, they're bringing in a lot of infrastructures and all. In order to check that, Supreme Court has said this, but now they have modified. So what are the amendments? So while they are passing out this order, they said that the 2022 order will not be applicable to all those ESZ, that is eco-sensitive zones, in respect to which the draft and the final notification. See, because this you will understand when we go into ESZ guidelines only. When a state is trying to announce an area as ESZ, okay, it will propose this to the ministry. So the ministry has to accept it. So that's how when they are passing the 2022 recent order, 2023 order, they said that the previous order which we have passed will not be applicable to the ESZ, in respect to which the draft and the final notifications have been issued by the Ministry of Environment. Okay, and where the proposals for such notifications have been received by the ministry. One thing is that the proposal sent by the state will be reaching the ministry will have it, then it will consider, then it will draft, and then it will send the final notification. So everything, starting from the proposals to the final notification which the ministry gives and accepts it and gives, has to be considered while stop reconsidering this order. They said that. Okay, so not the one which is in the final stage, but one which is in the initial stage also, ESS zones, this order will not be applicable. That is the meaning of this statement. Okay, so the 2022 order will not be applicable for any ESZ which is in the proposal stage to the final stage, that is in the drafted stage. Okay, that's the first statement meaning. And then they clearly notified that this 2022 order which we gave will not be applicable where the national parks, or you take wildlife sanctuaries which are located, especially in the interstate borders. That means two states sharing the common border. Now, for example, what happened in Sukna Wildlife Sanctuary, there was a lot of issue which has happened because it was sharing, the border was shared by Punjab and Haryana. And they were not ready to announce a ESZ after the Supreme Court has said in the 2022 order that there should be minimum 1 kilometer eco-sensitive zone. No, when after that order, Punjab and Haryana raised this issue along with other states. Even in Kerala was also some issues was going. Punjab and Haryana said that, see, this Sukna is located between Punjab and Haryana, so we are not ready to announce more than 100 meter as eco-sensitive zone. Like that way, they have raise the issue to the Supreme Court. So now it is going to benefit these types of national parks or wildlife sanctuaries which are located in the inter state borders. Okay, so that is the second statement which they clearly mentioned when they are passing out the 2023 order. And also they said that even then we are revoking the previous order, 2022 order, that that is not necessary that you have to mandatorily announce a ESZ, but we are still insisting that there should be no mining activity to be allowed. Okay, mining activity to be allowed either within the national parks and sanctuaries that we all know, or in a 1 kilometer radius there should be no mining activity should take place. So this is how they gave the 2023 recent order modifying the 2022 order. So this you have to be very clear, and there is no very important points in this order. So the real thing is then what which is going to come next. Okay, there only UPSC will be focusing. If the question comes, that area will be focused much. So you have to be clearly understanding these. So no such confusions when you're reading a newspaper. They would have given in this way, but what they are coming to say, since there were a lot of issues which happened based on the 2022 order, Supreme Court revoked its order, reconsidered its orders as per the central government's demand, and then they have delivered a 2023 order stating that, okay, we are revoking it. No need to mandatorily announce 1 kilometer eco-sensitive zones, and especially this will be applicable for all the ESZ if the state has applied for ESZ after the 2022 order. So everything we are revoking it, starting from the proposal stage, the final drafted stage, the ESZ, everything, every ESZ, this will be applicable. And also for the inter state boundary where the national parks or wildlife sanctuary, the protected areas are located in that area, this will not be applicable at all. But still, mining should not be carried out. This is the short or brief order which was provided by the Supreme Court. But come to the next point, what they have stated, see this. They said, okay, fine, we have revoked all that previous order which we have passed because you are facing a lot of inconveniences, and especially people has to, after that order, no, people has to approach this person, principal chief conservator of forest, PCCF, for every activity. They have to go and get permission from him. Yeah, and the people who are residing there, no, the farmers, even they, if they have to farm the land, they have to take the permit. This person is also completely busy occupying only in this job. Like he has to grant permission to the people every day. His job is to granting permission to millions of demands given by the people. So this way, a lot of inconvenience it is creating. And the eco-sensitive zone is not that to create inconvenience to the people, but to reduce the impact, negative impact on the protected area only. We are creating EEZZ. So we are revoking it. But what you have to do, the ministries should always strictly follow the 2011 guidelines for EEZZ. Okay, so this is what the Supreme Court said. Okay, we consider all the inconveniences. Now we are revoking it. But what the ministry should do? Ministry should strictly stick to the 2011 guidelines for declaration of EEZZ. Okay, around that protected areas, as we know, around the protected areas, and also the activities pertaining near the protected areas, which are the activities which has to be prohibited, which has to be regulated, which has to be permissible. In this way, they came up with a statement. Along with this, they also said that only this mostly you would have been highlighted, but this is very important. While granting environmental clearance, whenever you are going to start a project, you should take an environmental clearance along with the forest clearance. Okay, there are two things which you have to consider. If there is a forest land, if you're clearing it, you have to take a forest clearance if you're starting a project. So, Supreme Court added that while granting environmental and forest clearances for project activities in the ESZ zone, okay, and other areas outside the protected areas, anywhere you take, you have to follow the ministries, environment ministries office memorandum, which was passed in 2022. This has to be considered. So for declaration of ESZ, you have to consider 2011 guidelines, and for checking out or for granting environmental clearances for the projects in the ESZ and the outside areas of the protected areas, you have to follow the Environment Ministry's office memorandum, which was passed in 2022. So these two things, what are they? That only we are going to see now. As you can see, first we will start with the 2011 guidelines for declaration of ESZ. So you should know what is how the 2011 guidelines demanded the state to declare ESZ. That only we are going to see. Okay, so far what we have seen is Supreme Court's decision and Supreme Court's recent order only. So this is the background. What happened long back in 2002? You would have heard about the National Board for Wildlife, Indian Board for Wildlife. There is a body called National Board for Wildlife. Okay, so what they did, they started conducting meetings in order to devise a strategy plan for conservation of wildlife. Okay, we have to conserve the wildlife, so we are going to devise a strategy plan. In that meeting, for the first time, they adopted a statement that under the strategy plan, there was a point falling within 10 kilometers of the boundary of national park and sanctuaries should be notified as eco-fragile zones. In this way, they first time declared a statement, okay, under the plan, under the strategy, considering two act. One is Environmental Protection Act and another one is Environmental Protection Rules. Under this, we are saying that any land adjoining the protected areas and the wildlife sanctuaries around 10 kilometers, we have to consider them as eco-fragile zones only. Like this, they have adopted a point inside a strategy, wildlife conservation strategy. So now circular has to be distributed to the states, no? So they send the letter based on this strategy. They send the letter to every state, especially to notifying the chief wildlife warden that now it is the duty of you to propose the 10-kilometer radius CESZ for clearances. That way they have forwarded. What happened? Lot of states started raising the issues. How you will declare this 10-kilometer range? Already we have shifted people from protected area to outside. Now you are again saying the 10-kilometer we have to assign this as a eco-sensitive zone, and lot of activities will be stalled or prohibited. Inconveniences will be created for the state also, including the humans also. States will stalled with the development. Humans will be facing lot of inconveniences in their day-to-day activity. This way they started arguing, and this way they started raising the concerns, and protest starts happening from various states. Okay, so they said, fine, okay. Now we have to take this also into consideration, and again, the National Board for Wildlife in their second meeting in 2005, when they started the second meeting, they said that, okay, you all have raised the concerns. Okay, so now what we are trying to decide, that the delineation, that is when you are trying to assign an area's eco-sensitive zone, it should be site specific only. That is in which area, what is the protected area, so how it is around that area, how that area has to be based on the protected area specificity. Okay, very recently Supreme Court also said the same statement in 2023 order. By revoking the 2022 order, they said that no need to be mandatorily assigning an eco-sensitive zone. It should be site specific, and it should relate to regulation rather than prohibition of activities. Previously they said prohibition, no, in 2002 order, but now they said we can regulate the activity in the eco-sensitive zone, okay, instead of prohibiting the activity. That way they have remodified their declaration, and in the 2005 meeting they have remodified. So based on that, the eco-sensitive zone was formed. Okay, so previously it was they said that it should be 10 km, but now it is flexible. It is not 10 km based on the site, protected areas where it is. Then it can change. Okay, the width can change, the regulations can change, even the activities which has to be prohibited and regulated can be changed. It is flexible and it is dynamic from place to place. This is the main thing which you have to understand related to EECZ. Okay, so there is no fixed EECZ. It could be up to 10 kilometers only. Could be up to 10 kilometers. 10 kilometers means maximum it could be 10 kilometers. So any state can declare within that area. Either some state can say 1 kilometer only. Some can say 100 meter only I will declare. Some will go for 3 kilometers. Some will go for 10. Some can go even above 10. Okay, based on the site only. So where it is and how the human population is related to that protected area, they will be considering all that thing and then declare it. So what are the statutory provisions? If the question is coming, then they might ask that statutory provisions, supporting, backing the EECZ. For that, we already have said there are two act. Along with that, you can see this Wildlife Protection Act 1972 also will be included here. Wildlife Protection Act. How? Because this Wildlife Protection Act is saying that it is the duty of the National Board for Wildlife, okay, to protect the wildlife, to devise some measures to promote the conservation, development of the wildlife by announcing any measures they think that as right only. That based on that only they started forming the wildlife conservation strategy, and under that only they brought the CESZ zone notification itself. Okay. Then also the Environment Protection Act 1986. This is another regulation which you have to keep in mind. Under that, the central government has every duty to regulate the, to conserve the environment, to reduce pollution in the environment. Based on that, they will make some regulations. They can make any regulation. They can make any new strategies or move. So that is given under Environment Protection Act 1986. And again, Environment Protection Rules 1986 is also saying that the prohibition or restriction of location of any industries should be taken care of. Okay, in order to protect the environment, in order to protect the biological diversity, we have to consider all these things. So these acts are going to give backup to announcement of eco-sensitive zones. Okay, this is a right move only, like that way. Based on these acts rules only, we have done it. So the main purpose of EECZ is, see, the thing is that EECZ is acting as a shock absorber. Okay, so it is like a shock absorber. It's like a buffer zone only near the protected area. So what happens, why we are saying it is a shock absorber? If there is any industries located which is going to create a negative impact on the protected area, like the national park or wildlife sanctuary, now if we are announcing that area as EEZ, then it will be regulated. The activities of the industries will be regulated, or if it is a very harmful industry or highly polluted industry, it will be prohibited in that area. So that is why we are saying EEZ is acting as a shock absorber and is acting as a transition zone, okay, of highly protected area and lesser protected area. You see what is highly protected area? Here there will be a national park or there will be a wildlife sanctuary, and this area around the national park will be announced as EECZ, and here there will be normal people will be there, the settlements will be there, industries will be located, normal areas where people are living. So this is a common area, we can say. We can just notify this as a common area, or normal life activities will be taking place in this area. But this is EEZ zone. So it is acting like a transition zone between the highly protected area and the less protected area. So, and also EEZ is an area of regulated activities instead of prohibited activities. So we are trying to regulate the activities instead of prohibiting them. Okay. So these are some of the main aim of EECZ. Okay, so prohibited activities. Instead of that, we are regulating the activities. This way, we have talked about the EECZ, right? So these are the purpose we are bringing in EECZ. Then, how and all we can extend this EECZ zones based on the guidelines only. We are discussing all these things. So they have already said that, up to 10 kilometer, the EECZ zone could go up to 10 kilometer. Okay, and you can see this it will differ. Okay, the width of the eco-sensitive zone and type of the regulations which you have to do will differ from protected area to protected area. Okay, so and generally it can go up to 10 kilometers. So this is very important. They will say there is fixed 10 kilometer it will be a eco-sensitive zone. No such thing. The guidelines has clearly stated that it varies from places to places. And even in cases, the guidelines has said if there is a very sensitive corridor, if there is an elephant corridor, if there is a tiger corridor, something like where the animal is passing out, some connectivity or ecologically important patches, if there is something like that, then even beyond 10 kilometer, you can announce that as a eco-sensitive zone. So it is not completely strict. Only till 10 kilometer only you can announce that eco-sensitive zone. But if there is some area beyond 10 kilometer also, which is very much ecologically important area, then you can announce that also as eco-sensitive zone. This way, they have clearly stated the idea for eco-sensitive zones. Okay. Then how this eco-sensitive zones will be declared? For that, what they are saying, you need to know what are those industries or activities or operations which are taking place near a protected area like a national park or wildlife sanctuary. So who is responsible for collecting that inventory, the information? Information means inventory. It is collected in inventory. The range officer, no, a range officer in that particular forest will go and then collect the information related to all the activities within 10 kilometer of his range. He will do that data. He will put up in the inventory. Now there is an inventory. Okay. So before announcing ESZ, this is the process they will do. Then what happens? There will be a committee which will be formed. A committee is formed and considering the wildlife warden, okay, an ecologist will be there in the committee, and an official from the local self government, any official from local self government will be added, an official from the revenue department of the concerned area. So there will be 4 people: wildlife warden, ecologist, official from the local self government, and then official from a revenue department of the concerned area. So all these people will be put together in a committee. Now they will say how much extent this eco-sensitive zone should be considered. This is a protected area. Let us take Manas National Park. I am going to announce a eco-sensitive area. Now that committee will decide how much width the eco-sensitive zone should be around Manas National Park. Okay, this way they will decide. Okay, for example, the Sukna sanctuary I told you, there only 100 meter they decided. No, so these are the people who make a decision. So wildlife warden along with the ecologist and a local government person, official from a local government and an official from a revenue department, they will suggest. Okay, not only that, they will also suggest, what are the activities to be included in the region, what are the activities which should be regulated, which should be prohibited, and what are the methods you are going to protect the eco-sensitive zone. Everything will be decided by this committee. Okay, so everything will be done by this committee. And these especially these guidelines you take, these guidelines are especially indicative in nature. That means what are the guidelines which are given in 2011 guidelines, under the 2011 guidelines is only indicative. It's guide the state and the union territory that how they have to develop the site specific eco-sensitive zone. So it's just a guidance for them to follow. Okay, and you can see here, other than that, what are the thing which we have to focus is in the guidelines itself. They have said when they are trying to propose, I told you the proposal to be sent to the ministry. So when the proposal is sent, they have to annex certain details along with the proposal, that while they are asking that declare this area as a eco-sensitive zone. So when they are asking for declaration, they have to send something attached with that. So what are those things which has to be attached? What are those information they have to provide? They have to collect, no, this is the range officer will collect the details, like what are the activities which are ongoing there. So then they have to form a chart like this. They should ask for prohibited activities, regulated activities, permitted activities. This is just a guidance for them. You take something like organic farming, you take or you rainwater harvesting, which and all is going to conserve the energy, which are going to help or give a positive impact on the environment. Those types of activities are permitted there. Okay, of green technology, these things are permitted. But come to a prohibited activities, for example. So this way you have to learn your subject. So I have already made a table, you can use it for your reading. So the mining activities, even now in the 2023 order, Supreme Court has notified that no mining activity should be allowed. So mining activities, sawmills, setting of sawmills, or some industries which are causing pollutions, hazardous chemicals, even hydroelectric powers, major big hydroelectric powers, this and all should be not established there. Okay, and even tourism activity. Sometimes people take hot air balloons, fly over the national park or the wildlife sanctuary. So that and all is not allowed. It is prohibited, they say. Okay, and even activities like effluent, you are discharging the waste nearby the national park, a river is flowing, you are discharging waste into it, so that should not be allowed. So this way, these are some of the activities which should be prohibited, guidelines for that. And these are the activities which should be regulated, they said, instead of simply completely prohibiting. Hotels or resorts are there, the establishment of the, it should be regulated, there should be some rules and regulations to be formed for this. Okay, so like even usage of polythene bags and fencing of hotels. Okay, then bringing electric cables, widening of roads, even signboards they will have, no, and hoardings, and all these should be regulated, including air and vehicular pollutions, protection of hill slopes and river banks, introduction of exotic species, and movement of vehicular traffic at night, widening of roads. All these are coming under regulated activities. So you should read this one time in order to know what are the activities which can be regulated, which can be permitted, and which can be prohibited. Okay, so this way these rules, guidelines is giving you some information. Then in the Supreme Court order itself, they have mentioned about the office memoranda, environment ministry office memoranda. They said no for environmental clearances. So what they have given here, you can read it, but I'll explain it in a short form. Whenever a project, some project you are going to undertake, some starting from small project to big project, even a hydroelectric project you take, so it is coming in near a forest area. For that, you will take forest clearance and environment clearance. Both has to be taken. So forest clearance is of two stages. Okay, there are two stages for forest clearance. One is stage 1 forest clearance, another is stage 2 forest clearance. This way there are two forest clearances. As you can see, stage 1 FC. FC means forest clearance. Okay. So what happens here when that project person who is going to do a project is applying for a forest clearance, stage 1 forest clearance will be given to him. Along with that, what happens? He will get the environment clearance in the other parallelly. The process will go on, and environment clearance will be granted to him. But what happens? The stage 2 forest clearance will be in the pending. It has to be yet to be approved. So what? But environment clearance has validity. For certain period only they will be giving for clearance. So he has to wait for the stage 2 forest clearance. In meantime, the environment clearance validity will be over. So this type of hardships we are facing when project approval is given to a project. At the same time, what happens? They will go and say, see, sir, we have put this much effort. Environment clearance certificate is now outdated, but forest clearance we did not get. Now only we got. So we are going to extend. Please consider this. This way, they will go and take the environment clearance again. So a lot of issues are there with respect to the running of the project in case of the time delay between the environment clearance and the forest clearance. So in order to relax it, they lastly said that they came to a conclusion through the 2022 memoranda. They stated that, see, if it is a very big project, it takes a longer time to get stage 2 forest clearance. Okay, so what we can do in meantime, we can consider, we can take that environment clearance, although it is granted for you, until the date when the second forest stage 2 forest clearance is given. From that, we can extend the validity to 2 more years for the environmental clearance, so that you need not restart the process for environment clearance, or you need not again put lot of efforts in order to extend the environmental clearances. Okay, so this way we will consider it for maximum 2 years period. Within that period, forest clearance stage 2 has to be granted to the project. Okay, so this way they have said that we can bring certain modifications in order to protect the environmental safeguards only. Okay, so this way some changes has been brought under memoranda also, 2022 memoranda of history. So that's why Supreme Court has notified that we have to consider both 2011 guidelines, and for environmental clearances you have to follow 2022 memoranda of the ministry. So when they are doing this, silently they have also announced 22 eco-sensitive zones. No, last year when they said that eco-sensitive zone should be declared by the states. So 92 eco-sensitive zones has been proposed, and 2 ecological sensitive areas are also notified by the ministry. So what is this ecologically sensitive area? We know only about eco-sensitive zone. So far we are discussing about eco-sensitive zones based on the 2011 guideline, based on the recent Supreme Court order. So what are called as ecologically sensitive area? There might be a different diversion by the UPSC when they are asking a question. So you should know what is ecologically sensitive areas also. Ecologically sensitive areas, you see, they have been identified and they have been notified by the ministry. Again, ministry will do this. Ministry of Environment and Forest will identify and notify this. They are doing it since 1989. They are doing this under, again, what is the act which is supporting it? Under the Environment Protection Act only they are doing this. Okay, and Environment Protection Act 1986 only they are trying to announce ecologically sensitive areas also. Why they are doing it? Mainly, you take ecologically sensitive zones, they are trying to do, what is the purpose of ESZs? The purpose of ESZ is to reduce the negative impact on the protected area. That is the main purpose of ESZ. But what is the main purpose of ESA? In order to protect unique biological resources which require special attention for their conservation. If they are present in that area, very unique biological resource, any organisms, any species which are present in that particular area which needs a special attention, then you can declare that area as ecologically sensitive area. Okay, for that purpose only they brought ESA. So that is the difference between ESZ and ESA. So ESZ is mainly to reduce negative impact on protected area. ESA, in order to protect unique biological resources, we are declaring that area as ecologically sensitive area. For this, lot of committees has been formed by the ministry also. First, Pranab Sen committee was formed around 1999 to declare the parameters for ecologically sensitive areas. Okay, what are the parameters we can consider when we are declaring a ecologically sensitive area? For that, they formed the Pranab Sen committee. Okay, that is Pranab Sen, and around 1999 that committee was formed. But later in 2001, there is another committee called Mohan Ram committee. Okay, this was appointed by the government to examine the ESA proposals. Suppose these are the ESA we are going to declare. So they are going to examine that. For that, a committee was formed and to review the already declared ESAs. So this was the Mohan Ram committee. Apart from that, a lot of other committees were also there for ESA. But these were the two important committees, one declaring the parameters for ESA, another one is analyzing whether this ESA is right or declared in the proper way or not. To review it, they have declared that. They have formed this committee. Okay, so these are the most important information related to ESZ and ESA. So this is what you have to know about. Okay, so instead of just simply reading the Supreme Court order, nothing, there is no tail, there is no head. So what you have to connect it with the 2011 guidelines framed by the ministry as well as the memorandum, ministry's memorandum 2022 for the clearances. These two you have to know what it is. So questions will be from that only, and clearly it is, again briefly if I want to say, clearly you have to keep one thing in mind, that ESZ according to 2011 guideline is not a mandatory one and it is not a fixed one. It is always a flexible one. Okay, a state has to announce, that's it, but it has to be a flexible one. Around up to, it can go up to 10 kilometer. Okay, so this is how it is not completely they are forcing a state, but they are asking every state to do it as per the 2011 guideline, because already they sent a circular based on Board for Wildlife declaration. Nobody has done it, so only ministry came and framed this guideline for every state to follow this guideline and declare an area as a eco-sensitive zone. So now it is flexible, you can go either 100 meter, either you can go even 10 kilometer, it's up to you, but based on the site specific you can declare it. That is what 2022 order over modified it. It said no, it is mandatorily you have to at least minimum 1 kilometer you have to announce. But very recently Supreme Court remodified the order. Okay, it said okay fine, you follow the 2011 guideline for declaration of ESZ. So this is all information related to ESZ and ESA. So we will meet in another topic. Thank you.